Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I want to just have a, conversation about, the lengths of shows and stuff like that. Obviously, it's a conversation I've had time and time again about, when a show should basically end. Obviously, I'm always for like a show ending because a creator decided like, I'm going to end the show here. I'm always a fan of also if you give a show the heads up of like, you're entering your final season. Once again, I've talked about it countless times again. I hate when it's just kind of like, oh yeah, you don't get renewed for another season, retroactively making the previous season, the final season. I'm not a fan of that, but I always prefer like if a creator is able to end the show when they want to. And obviously a great, more recent example of that would be the Watchmen situation. Obviously I won't get into spoilers and stuff like that, but Watchmen ended up being a one-off because obviously, Damon Lindelof had talked about the fact is that, the story was told that he wanted, to tell, and so when it was all said and done, he wanted to just kind of walk away. Like if HBO did bring it back for a second season, he just wouldn't be a part of it, which that led to an interesting conversation because there were people who wanted a second season. There were people who were like, no, leave it as a one-off. Me, I was on that side. If they decided to come back for a second season, I wouldn't have mind, but if they decided to end it as a one-off, I wouldn't have minded either, which obviously they are sticking with the one-off thing, which I think it's interesting because I know for some people, because once again, that's a conversation I know that kind of gets brought up a lot here in the US, because I know a lot of British shows tend to be very short, like obviously lengthwise when it comes to like how many episodes are in a season, but also just like usually a lot of those shows end up being fairly short, like whereas a lot of shows here in the US kind of have a tendency to run on for a long time. But that's, for me, I'm always a fan of like something going on for as long as possible, especially if it's something that I like or love. I'm like, oh, keep going forever if you need to, but obviously you get into that territory of like, okay, but then it's a situation of what if you don't get renewed for a new season? It kind of puts you in that complicated area. But like I said, it's just I'm always down for a creator being like, I'm gonna end the show after this amount of time. Another recent example of that would be like the end of the effing world. Because I think I just read it probably like a month or two ago. Like apparently the writer was like she wasn't planning on coming back for a third series. Which, to be fair, the way season 2 ends, I'm like totally fine with that because I'm like, honestly, you wrapped everything up in a very nice, without spoiling things. Things get wrapped up pretty nice. And I'm like, that's an ending I'm 100% okay with. So you decided not to come back for a third season, I'm 100% okay. Like it would be cool to see what you would have done with a third season, but at the same time, I'm like, it's great. You ended it on a great spot. So, that was only 2 seasons. So it just kind of gets into your head about that situation of like, well, should more shows do the shorter thing of like, oh, should it just be 1 or 2 seasons? Which at the same time, it's like, well, some of my favorite shows aren't 1 or 2 seasons. Like, a lot of shows I like have been going on for a very, very long time. So it's like, would I want them to be shorter? I know some people would, like, because some people don't like, and this conversation I've had multiple times too, shows being longer because it means that, it's like, it's more of an investment unless you're already on that trip. Like once again, it's a great example would be like Supernatural. For some people, Supernatural is a hard show to just jump into because you've literally got 14 previous seasons to catch up on, because the show is in its 15th and final season. So it seems like more of an uphill type of thing compared to something that might be like 1 or 2 seasons, because I feel like the average season length that most shows might try and aim for at the very least is 5 seasons. I think that's kind of like the golden spot. But nevertheless, it's the whole Watchmen thing just kind of got me thinking about the whole thing of like, will people kind of do more one-offs? Because there's certain things, because even something like The Outsider. The Outsider is a very like one-off show because it's based on the Stephen King book, so you can definitely see it being like a very one-off. But obviously, there's other one-offs, well, things that started off as one-offs that spun into other things, like The Sinner. That was the book is essentially that it's based on. The first season of The Sinner is based on the book. Seasons 2 and 3 are original cases specifically for the show, and that way you could keep a show going by making it an anthology by having one recurring character, that being the detective Harry Ambrose. So it's that type of situation. I guess it also depends on how you go about the show. But me, once again, I'm rarely an anthology type of person. I'm more like following the same cast, like the same group of characters all the way through. I make an exception with The Sinner and other stuff, but regardless, it's just the whole interesting conversation, because I'd actually love to get to know someone's thoughts about that who want it, because like I'm not saying like, well, Watchmen, you could definitely see ways of working around making a second season, because there's a lot of you get into aspects of worldwide events, but it is still a thing of like, it is a very smaller scale story that you could go into other places with. There's a lot you could do, especially, it'd be an interesting lane, without going into spoilers, how the Watchmen TV show ends, it's kind of like what that would mean in a second season. Would that be something you'd address? Would it kind of be like a background thing that we've never acknowledged? Because also you'd have to answer the finale once again, you know, because it's kind of, I won't spoil it. Certain aspects of the finale are left up in the air where it's like, certain people think this, other people, you know, more of the opinions I've heard lean more one way of it. To me, I just kind of chalked it up to be, I don't know, and I'm fine with it not being a known aspect. So it's just kind of a curious thing to lead off of, like, where would that potentially go? Like, you know, I mean, who knows? Many years down the road, someone might pick that continuity up and be like, I'm gonna do my own thing with it too. Just like, you know, Lindelof took, you know, him and the writers ended up taking the comic book and kind of doing their own thing with it. So who's to say someone later on down the line doesn't do the same thing and kind of build off what they started with the HBO show? Who knows? Obviously, these are just my thoughts. I'd love to get to know yours in the comments down below. Obviously, kind of going back to the Watchmen question of, like, you know, were you one of those people who wanted a second season, or were you totally fine with the fact is that Watchmen was a one and done? Would you want more shows to be a one and done, or is it just a situation of it depends on the creator? If a creator wants it to be a one and done, fine. But also, you know, if someone decides they want to go longer, fine. As long as it's the creator's choice. Are you kind of like with me on that? Do you flip-flop both between? Between both? I'd love to get to know your thoughts about this in the comments down below. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.